Nicholas Steele had devoted his existence to making choices without a second thought. He constructed a vast domain, turned his back on diversions, and never doubted the correctness of his decisions. Yet, it was merely a single look across a bustling space, a pair of recognizable blue eyes reflecting from a child's visage, that caused his meticulously crafted reality to shatter. Nicholas Steele constructed his existence upon the pillars of discipline, control, and an unyielding commitment to achievement. He possessed an unwavering focus, dismissing any form of distraction and showing no acceptance for the unexpected. His company stood as his empire, his legacy, and there was absolutely nothing that would threaten it. When Kate revealed her pregnancy, his initial response was far from excitement. It wasn't apprehension. It was a chilling, methodical assurance. "We can't," he said, his voice flat as he poured himself a drink. Kate remained motionless in the center of their penthouse, her hands gently cradling her stomach. "What do you mean, we can't?" she inquired, her tone tinged with incredulity. Nicholas let out a quick breath and pivoted to confront her. "I believe my feelings on this matter are quite clear. From the very start, I made it clear that having children is not something I desire." Her lips parted just a fraction, a silent testament to her disbelief at the words that reached her ears. "I believed that perhaps everything would shift once it truly occurred, that you might experience a change in your feelings upon realizing there was a life developing within me." His jaw clenched. "I shared the truth with you. My response remains the same." Kate's hands balled into tight fists. "What does it matter? Are you asking me to dispose of it?" Nicholas averted his gaze, placing his glass gently on the bar. He remained silent. Kate's breath caught in her throat. "Oh my goodness." He compelled himself to lock eyes with her. "Kate, my professional commitments and personal life leave no space for this. You were aware of the commitment you were making when you chose to marry me." Her complexion drained of color. "I didn't wed a machine, Nicholas. I entered into a union with a man. A man whom I cherished. A man I believed cared for me." A sharp pang twisted in his chest, yet he chose to disregard it. Affection held no significance. Emotions served as diversions. This was not a matter of feelings, it was a question of reason, of the tangible existence he had created. "I cannot take on the role of a father," he stated with conviction. "I shall not." Kate recoiled, as though the weight of his words had hit her with tangible force. "So that's it," she murmured. "You're simply turning your back and leaving." Nicholas stated calmly, "I'm not the one leaving." Kate fixed her gaze on him for an extended moment, then nodded, a gesture more for her own reassurance than for his sake. "I find it hard to believe I ever imagined you had the capacity for love." Her voice was soft, yet the anguish it carried resonated powerfully. She pivoted and made her way to the door, her pace deliberate yet unhurried. Nicholas anticipated that she would halt, pivot, and implore him once more to rethink his decision. Yet she chose not to. With a decisive movement, she opened the door, stepped outside, and allowed it to close behind her, unflinching. Nicholas lingered, gazing at the void left behind in her absence. He reassured himself that his decision was just, that she would thrive in his absence, and that he too would find solace away from her. By morning, he had assured himself that he felt no remorse. 6 years later, he would come to realize just how mistaken he had been. 6 years had gone by, and Nicholas Steele had not glanced back even once. He immersed himself in his endeavors, broadened his domain, and solidified his reputation as one of the most influential entrepreneurs in the nation. He reassured himself that he had chosen wisely, that his life was precisely as it ought to be, simple, concentrated, and devoid of interruptions. As he found himself in the center of the opulent ballroom at a high-profile charity event, casually sipping his drink and engaging in small talk with individuals he hardly knew, the meticulously crafted facade of his life shattered in an instant. He noticed her before she noticed him. Kate. She stood across the room, just as stunning as he remembered her from their last encounter. Time had not diminished her beauty, yet there was an unmistakable change in her essence now. She held herself with a more reserved stance, her face displaying a calm demeanor, and though her presence was subdued, it remained undeniably captivating. She was no longer the woman who had once stood in their penthouse, imploring him to think again. She was no longer the same. And then he noticed the girl next to her. A young child, perhaps around 6 years old, with chestnut brown hair styled into 2 tidy pigtails. She donned a soft blue dress, her small hand clasping Kate's, fingers naturally entwined with her mother's in a comfortable embrace. Yet it was not the girl's presence that delivered a sudden shock to Nicholas's heart. Her eyes were large, blue, and reminiscent. The revelation struck him with the force of a tangible impact. The surroundings blurred into a cacophony of sound, the clinking of glasses, the soft hum of chatter, the faint strains of a string quartet, all rendered insignificant. His heart raced in his ears as he gazed at the little girl, his thoughts swirling to comprehend the reality before him. Kate pivoted, her eyes scanning the expanse of the room. When their gazes locked, a subtle shift passed over her expression, neither shock nor panic nor guilt, but rather a serene, inscrutable indifference. She had sensed his presence all along. She entered the event with the awareness that he could be present, yet her expression betrayed no hint of surprise. That stung more than he anticipated. Before he had a chance to contemplate, before he could restrain himself, Nicholas began to approach her. He was at a loss for words. He was completely unsure of his desires. Yet, all rational reasoning faded away in the face of one irrefutable reality: he had a daughter, and he had been completely unaware of her existence. Nicholas navigated the room with a determination he hadn't experienced in years. His heart raced within him, yet his expression stayed inscrutable. His movements were deliberate. As he walked by, onlookers took notice, familiar with him, anticipating the customary nod or a solid handshake. He dismissed them all. His attention was fixed on the woman a short distance away, accompanied by the child beside her, who shared his gaze. Kate remained still. She remained steadfast, offered no protection to the girl, and refrained from hurriedly justifying her actions. She met his gaze with a calm challenge, as though inviting him to break the silence first. Nicholas came to a halt right in front of them. His breath calmed even as the tempest raged within. His gaze fell to the little girl, who observed him with a mix of curiosity and wariness. In close proximity, the likeness was unmistakable, the identical blue eyes, the same defined features. She belonged to him. His throat constricted, yet his voice remained unwavering as he spoke. "Kate." She raised her chin just a bit. The silence lingered heavily between Nicholas and her. He felt uncertain about how to begin. He had always been articulate, but nothing in his life had equipped him for this moment. He focused on the girl, who grasped Kate's hand yet remained unafraid to stand her ground. "What's her name?" he inquired, his tone softer than he had meant it to be. Kate's grip on the child's hand grew firmer, yet she moved forward without a moment's pause. "Amelia." The name nestled within him, a heavy presence, as if it had always been a part of him, hidden away until now. He gazed at the girl once more, examining her closely, committing every nuance of her features, her posture, the manner in which she observed him to memory. She felt no fear in his presence. She was unaware of his identity. He compelled himself to focus on Kate once more. "You failed to inform me." A brief flash of feeling appeared on her face, vanishing before he could identify it. "You didn't want children," she stated, her tone steady yet resolute. Nicholas let out a sharp breath. That was 6 years back. Kate's expression remained steadfast. "And nothing has shifted, has it?" All had transformed. For years, he had reassured himself that his choice was the right one, that fatherhood was not his destiny, that he had saved them both from a life he felt incapable of providing. Yet, as he stands here now, gazing at the child he never knew was part of his life, all those reasons have faded into insignificance. His voice was soft, measured. "Why was I not informed?" Kate's jaw clenched. I had no intention of pleading for your affection towards her. The words pierced through him, more cutting than he had anticipated. He began to speak, but just then, Amelia pulled on Kate's hand. "Mommy, who is that man?" Kate took a deep breath, her features relaxing as she gazed down at her daughter. In that instant, Nicholas sensed a profound transformation in his reality. This was his daughter, and she remained completely unaware of his identity. Kate cast a fleeting glance in his direction. A hint of doubt danced in her eyes. Then, she turned to Amelia and said, "Just someone I used to know." Nicholas experienced the weight of those words as if they had struck him hard in the stomach. Kate acknowledged them with a courteous nod, as though they were merely casual acquaintances from afar. With a graceful pivot, she guided Amelia onward. He ought to have allowed them to leave. Yet he was unable to. "This isn't the moment. Here we go again." Nicholas remained motionless, his gaze fixed on Kate as she turned to leave, Amelia's tiny hand securely held in her grasp. The phrases reverberated in his mind, more intense than the melodies swirling in the air, more pronounced than the chatter surrounding him. Just a figure from the past, a fleeting memory. The abruptness of it pierced him in a manner he hadn't anticipated. He had constructed his whole existence around mastery, around making choices and never glancing back. As he stood there, observing his daughter blend into the throng, it dawned on him that this was a moment he could never turn his back on. With no hesitation, he took action. His steps were deliberate, his expression inscrutable, yet within him, a tempest swirled. He navigated the bustling ballroom until he reached them by the exit. Just as Kate was about to grab her coat, she caught sight of him standing behind her. She let out a breath, her shoulders tightening as she pivoted to confront him. "Nicholas, please reconsider this choice." His jaw clenched. "What shouldn't be done?" "Don't pretend you actually care," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. His gaze shifted to Amelia, who stood silently, her eyes darting between them with a sense of naive wonder. He glanced at Kate, his tone steady yet resolute. "That decision isn't yours to make." Kate emitted a soft, mirthless chuckle. "I do not." "Is that so? 6 years ago, a choice was made by you. You specified your desires clearly, and this isn't what you had in mind." Nicholas let out a quick breath. "I was unaware of her existence." Kate's demeanor shifted to one of icy detachment. "And who is to blame for that?" He tightened his jaw. "You never allowed me the opportunity." She gazed at him for an extended moment, contemplating the merits of engaging in an argument. With a soft sigh, she shifted her gaze to Amelia. "Darling, could you please give me a moment?" Amelia nodded and drifted a few steps away, captivated by a nearby array of paintings. Kate glanced at Nicholas, her gaze piercing. "What is it that you desire?" He acted without a moment's pause. "To understand her." Kate exhaled slowly. "It's more complex than that." "It is," he replied. "I am blessed with a daughter. For 6 long years, you've kept her away from me. I deserve to understand her better." Kate's jaw clenched. "What do you do when you come to terms with the fact that fatherhood disrupts your meticulously organized life? What occurs when you grow weary of fulfilling the role of a father and choose to simply step away?" His stomach churned. "That's simply not in the cards." She released a sardonic laugh. "You're expressing that sentiment at this moment." He moved in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I am no longer that man, Kate." She observed him intently, probing for any hint of deceit. "Even if I hold that belief, it extends beyond just you. Amelia is unfamiliar with you. It's unrealistic to think you can suddenly enter her world and expect her to embrace you right away." He acknowledged that he didn't anticipate that. "However, I am worthy of an opportunity." Kate averted her gaze for a brief instant, her fingers gripping the strap of her purse with increasing intensity. At last, she faced him again, her tone softened. "If I allow you to meet her, you must promise not to cause her any harm." Are you following what I'm saying? You can't just stroll in, convince her that she holds significance in your life, and then vanish when it suits you. Nicholas gulped, feeling a constriction in his throat. I could never bring myself to do that. She scanned his features, her guard firmly in place. Yet there was a subtle shift in her expression, a hint of softness emerging. All right. Are you interested in meeting her? We'll begin at a gentle pace. A wave of relief washed over him, yet he maintained his composure. He gave a slight nod. Kate cast a fleeting look at Amelia before turning her gaze back to him. On the morrow. Post-classes. Nicholas gave another nod. I will be present. With a deep breath, Kate pivoted to face Amelia, beckoning her to return. Nicholas observed the little girl as she skipped toward them, unaware of the gravity of the conversation that had just unfolded. Kate grasped his hand, casting a final glance at Nicholas. Please don't let this be a decision I come to regret. As she turned and walked away, he remained rooted in place, burdened by the weight of the most significant promise he had ever uttered. Nicholas made his way to the quaint little cafe, arriving a full 15 minutes ahead of schedule. He had never felt anxious before a meeting in his life. He had orchestrated billion-dollar agreements, confronted fierce rivals, and crafted an empire solely through his unwavering resolve. Yet, nothing could rival this. He positioned himself at a table near the window, his hands gently placed on the smooth, polished wood. The coffee before him sat idle, a silent witness to the moment. He found himself uncertain about the emotions he was meant to experience. For 6 years, he held on to the conviction that he was not meant to have children. In just a few hours, that conviction had crumbled. The door chimed, sending his heart racing. He pivoted his head at the perfect moment to catch a glimpse of Kate entering. She appeared distinct from how she had the previous night, more relaxed, more reminiscent of the woman he had once known. She donned a pair of jeans and a cozy sweater, her long brown hair cascading gently over her shoulders. Yet his gaze was elsewhere. They found themselves on Amelia. The young girl grasped her mother's hand tightly, while her other hand clutched a tiny stuffed rabbit. She surveyed the cafe with a sense of understated intrigue, her vivid blue eyes roaming the space until they settled on him. Nicholas rose to his feet. Kate walked over to the table, her face a mask of mystery. We have arrived, she murmured gently. He nodded, compelling himself to take a breath. Kate gazed down at Amelia. Darling, it's Nicholas. Amelia inclined her head just a touch. The gentleman from last evening? Nicholas nearly allowed a smile to escape at her remark. She had a keen insight. Kate paused, taking a moment before she knelt beside her daughter. He is truly one of a kind. Amelia's delicate fingers curled tightly around her rabbit. In what way? Kate cast a quick look at Nicholas before shifting her gaze back to her daughter. We'll discuss that shortly, all right? Amelia observed him intently for a moment before giving a nod of understanding. Kate led her to the chair opposite him, and Nicholas took a seat too. The stillness lingered. He was at a loss when it came to communicating with a child. He had never attempted. Yet, this was his offspring. That notion alone constricted his chest. Kate took a moment to clear her throat. Would you care for some hot chocolate, Em? Amelia gave a subtle nod, while Kate gestured for the waiter to approach. Nicholas felt the weight of the moment pressing upon him. He inclined his body slightly, his voice taking on a gentler tone than normal. Your rabbit is quite charming. Amelia stared at him, her eyes wide with surprise. She goes by the name Rosie. Rosie. He allowed the name to linger on his tongue. She appears to be cherished deeply. Amelia gently caressed the bunny's ear. She holds a special place in my heart. Nicholas paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. For how long have you had her? Amelia paused to gather her thoughts, then raised 3 fingers in the air. Ever since I was 3. Nicholas nodded, as though this was the most crucial revelation he had ever encountered. Kate observed him intently, her face a mask of mystery. The waiter approached, presenting the steaming mug of hot chocolate and placing it gently before Amelia. She encircled it with her hands, savoring a small sip before meeting his gaze once more. "Mom said you were looking to meet with me." Nicholas gulped. "I certainly did. What is the reason?" He had always been ready for any question that came his way. Yet, he found himself without a definitive response. He could only speak the truth. "Because I was unaware of your existence," he remarked, his tone softer than it had been. "Having realized this, I am determined not to let another day slip by." Amelia observed him intently, her blue eyes sharp and reminiscent of his own gaze. She appeared to weigh his words thoughtfully, as though contemplating the truth of his claims. Kate leaned over the table, softly tucking a stray lock of hair behind Amelia's ear. "There's no need to hurry, darling. This is merely a gathering." Amelia gave a slow nod before redirecting her gaze to Nicholas. "Do you enjoy cake?" She blinked. "Cake," she nodded. "Honestly, my mom believes that conversations flow more freely when there's cake involved." A soft, surprising chuckle escaped from deep within him. "Your mother possesses great wisdom." Kate rolled her eyes, yet he noticed the brief spark of amusement within them. Amelia offered a faint smile. "In that case, we ought to indulge in some cake." Nicholas gave a slight nod. "I believe that's a fantastic notion." Kate waved for the waiter once more, while Amelia meticulously scrutinized the dessert menu, and in that moment, Nicholas came to a realization. This wasn't merely the initial gathering, it marked the beginning of a journey. Nicholas had never understood the profound impact a single moment could have on the course of his life. As he watched Amelia meticulously cut her cake into small, exact pieces, he realized that everything had changed. She appeared diminutive, yet exuded a remarkable poise. Her silence was often profound, yet when she chose to speak, her words carried weight and consideration. He noticed hints of Kate within her, her enduring patience, her subtle strength. Yet, there was an unmistakable essence that belonged solely to him. It was in the manner of her keen observations, in the depth with which she scrutinized him, an intensity that belied her youth. Kate stayed mostly silent, allowing Amelia to take charge. Nicholas was grateful for that. He didn't require Kate to navigate this, he needed to discover his own path. Amelia savored another bite of cake before gently placing her fork down. "Are you busy with work often?" Nicholas adjusted his posture with a subtle shift. "Indeed, I do." She gave a slight nod. "Mommy puts in a lot of effort as well. She believes that while work holds significance, it should never overshadow the value of human connections." Nicholas sensed the burden of those words pressing down on him, a palpable heaviness in his chest. He devoted his whole life to prioritizing work over all else, and as a result, he had overlooked this. "I believe your mother has a point," he remarked, his tone softer than it had been earlier. Amelia observed him intently. "Given your busy schedule, what motivated you to want to meet with me?" Nicholas let out a breath. He had devoted his whole career to mastering the art of expression, yet none of those talents were relevant in this situation. He confessed that our paths should have crossed much earlier. Amelia inclined her head ever so slightly, pondering his words. "Were you unaware of my existence?" He shook his head in disbelief. "Negative." Her delicate fingers wrapped around the rim of her plate. "Would you have preferred to be informed?" The inquiry pierced him deeply, unlike anything he had ever experienced before. "Indeed," he replied, his tone unwavering. "More than anything, I would have desired to know more." Amelia paused before replying. She savored another bite of cake, her gaze darting between him and her mother. Kate remained silent, allowing her daughter to navigate her thoughts in her own time. Following a lengthy silence, Amelia at last broke the stillness with her words. "Are you fond of parks?" Nicholas stared, momentarily taken aback by the sudden inquiry. "Green spaces?" She gave a slight nod. The playground near our home features swings and a large slide. Are those to your liking? It had never crossed his mind. It had been ages since he last wandered into a park, a memory that stretched back to his childhood. It had been quite a while since he last attended one, he confessed. Amelia propped her chin on her hand, lost in contemplation. You might want to give it a shot. Perhaps you'll find enjoyment in it once more. Nicholas found himself uncertain whether she was probing him or merely expressing a truth, yet the manner in which she articulated it gave him the impression that she was extending an opportunity, a possibility. At last, Kate found her voice. On Saturdays, we typically visit the park. Nicholas glanced at her, then shifted his gaze back to Amelia. In that case, I would be pleased to accompany you. Amelia's face remained stoic, yet there was a subtle warmth in her gaze. Understood. Kate locked eyes with him, an enigmatic expression flickering across her face. Do you really think so? Nicholas gave a slight nod. I desire to be present. Amelia savored the final morsel of her cake, then delicately cleaned her hands with her napkin. All right, but you must try the slide at least once. Nicholas nearly chuckled. He skillfully navigated multi-million-dollar deals and faced the most influential figures in the world with unwavering confidence. And yet, he was quite convinced that sliding down with his daughter would prove to be the most daunting experience he had ever faced. Yet, he showed no signs of hesitation. If that's how it is, then I suppose I'll have to comply. Amelia's smile emerged, subtle yet genuine. For the very first time, Nicholas Steele experienced the sensation of having accomplished something worthwhile. Nicholas made his way to the park on Saturday morning, arriving ahead of schedule. He had never been one to bide his time for others. In his realm, others lingered in anticipation of his arrival. Yet, this was not a transaction, it wasn't a gathering he could control to suit his agenda. This was an endeavor of a much more intricate nature, one he had yet to navigate. The park, though modest in size, was meticulously maintained, offering a refreshing patch of greenery amidst the urban landscape. At the heart of it all, a playground emerged, featuring swings, slides, and climbing structures, where a handful of children were already joyfully darting about. He surveyed the surroundings, his eyes landing on a wooden bench positioned by the entrance. He approached and settled into his seat, hands placed on his knees, heart pounding more fiercely than he was willing to acknowledge. Moments later, he caught sight of them, Kate and Amelia strolling together. The young girl donned a vibrant yellow jacket, her hair styled in two neat braids today rather than the usual pigtails. She grasped Kate's hand, her other arm securely embracing her beloved stuffed rabbit. Nicholas had previously overlooked the finer points of life, but now he was acutely aware of every little thing around him. The subtle sway of Amelia's legs as she moved forward. Kate leaned down, her voice a soft murmur just for her ears. The moment Amelia's face brightened for just an instant before she shifted her focus to him. It was Kate who spotted him first. She locked eyes with him, offered a slight nod, then turned her attention to Amelia and whispered something inaudible to him. The young girl paused briefly, then let go of her mother's hand and approached him with cautious steps. Nicholas stood, uncertain about how to position his hands. Amelia paused a short distance away, tilting her head to gaze up at him. You arrived, she remarked. I said I would, Nicholas responded. Amelia paused, her expression contemplative, before gesturing toward the playground. Are you prepared? He cast a quick look at the slides, the swings, and the parents nearby, observing their children with attentive eyes. What for? Her gaze conveyed an unmistakable message, he ought to be aware already. As Nicholas released a breath that bordered on laughter, the slide seemed to capture the moment perfectly. I understand. Amelia extended her hand, her delicate fingers encircling his. It was the inaugural moment her fingers brushed against him, and he sensed a profound change within, an unnamed sensation stirring deep inside. Kate trailed a short distance behind while Amelia guided him toward the playground. Nicholas found himself on one of these after decades, yet today, none of that seemed to hold any significance. Today, he stood by her side. Amelia paused at the base of the towering slide, gazing up at him. "Please take the lead." Nicholas stole a look at Kate, who was casually leaning against a nearby railing, arms crossed, a playful smirk dancing on her lips. He glanced at Amelia and gave a slight nod. Understood. He ascended the brief ladder, a hint of absurdity washing over him. As he reached the summit and gazed down at Amelia, who awaited him with eager anticipation, a sense of calm washed over him. He surrendered to the moment, gliding down with an exhilarating surge and touching down effortlessly at the base. Amelia applauded. "You accomplished it." Nicholas brushed his hands clean and offered her a subtle nod. "It's your moment now." With a bright smile, Amelia ascended the ladder. She glided down with grace, her laughter echoing as she touched down next to him. Nicholas discovered a genuine smile spreading across his face, one that had eluded him for years. For the next hour, he trailed in her footsteps. They swung back and forth, scaled the jungle gym, and engaged in a lively game of tag that left him more winded than he was willing to acknowledge. Throughout the entire experience, Kate observed from a nearby spot, her demeanor more gentle than it had been previously. Finally, Amelia dashed over to Kate and settled onto the bench next to her. Nicholas approached, a strange sensation beginning to take root within him. Amelia raised her gaze to meet his. "That was enjoyable," she remarked. He settled himself next to her. "Indeed, it was." She lifted the water bottle Kate had given her to her lips, taking a sip before turning to confront him completely. "Will you be joining us next Saturday?" Nicholas sensed the intensity of Kate's stare upon him. He locked eyes with Amelia and gave a slight nod. "If that's what you desire." She observed him intently for a while, then broke into a smile. "Understood." Kate remained silent, yet as their eyes locked, an undeniable change occurred. It wasn't quite trust, not at this moment, but it had moved beyond doubt. For the time being, that sufficed. Nicholas had never imagined that a seemingly ordinary Saturday at the park could alter the course of his life, yet it did. It turned into a habit. Each weekend, he gathered with Kate and Amelia at their usual spot. Initially, it was merely the park. Afterward, there was ice cream. Next came strolls through the city. The afternoon unfolded in cozy bookstores, where Amelia meticulously selected a new tale to bring home. He discovered aspects of her that no transaction, no level of reasoning, could have equipped him to understand. She had no fondness for chocolate ice cream, yet she adored vanilla. She despised the sight of mismatched socks. She had a fondness for puzzles, particularly those composed of 1,000 intricate pieces. She sensed his discomfort, and upon realizing it, she would subtly shift the topic without drawing attention to the change. She possessed intelligence and keen observation, reflecting qualities he hadn't anticipated, yet her kindness shone through as well. Her perspective on the world held a gentleness that contrasted sharply with his more jaded view. She remained untouched by the weight of disappointment or the drive of ambition. She continued to view life as a canvas brimming with potential. With each effortless reach for his hand, with every burst of laughter at his playful remarks, he sensed himself being drawn deeper into her enchanting world. Kate exhibited a cautious approach to trust. She exhibited a courteous demeanor, yet remained wary. She always insisted on being there whenever he wanted to take Amelia out. She never sought anything from him, never took for granted that he would remain. She observed him intently, anticipating the moment he would demonstrate that this wasn't just a fleeting phase, that he would remain present even when challenges arose. Nicholas held no resentment towards her. One evening, after he had dropped them off at their apartment, he lingered outside the building longer than was necessary. Kate had already ushered Amelia inside, yet the door remained slightly ajar. She retreated outdoors, her arms folded, gazing up at him. "Will you be joining us inside?" He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. She had never welcomed him into her space before. He stepped inside, taking in the cozy ambience of the modest apartment. It bore no resemblance to the penthouse they had previously inhabited together. There was nothing quite like the chill of the polished, modern environments he was accustomed to. Drawings adorned the fridge, a small bookshelf brimmed with children's books, and a blanket lay over the couch, its hand-knitted charm evident. It may not have been flawless, but it was a place to call home. Kate gestured for him to take a seat. He observed her as she rested against the counter. After a brief pause, Kate remarked, "She speaks of you." Nicholas raised his gaze. "Is that you, Amelia?" Kate gave a slight nod. Not in grand gestures, just in subtle nuances. "She notes the details of your conversations, the manner in which you savor your coffee, and the intensity of your expression when she shares her thoughts with you." He found himself at a loss for words in response to that. Kate let out a breath. "She has feelings for you." His chest constricted with a sudden intensity. "I appreciate her as well." Kate observed him intently. "So, what actions will you take in response to this?" He furrowed his brow ever so slightly. "Could you clarify what you mean?" She cast her gaze downward for a brief moment before meeting his eyes again. "Nicholas, I can't allow you to be part of her life if this is just a fleeting moment. She is a child. She won't grasp it if one day you simply cease to appear." He inclined his body forward just a touch. "I would refrain from doing that." Kate maintained her focus on him. "Would you not?" His stomach churned. He understood the reasons behind her skepticism towards him. He had turned his back once before. He expressed to her that he was not destined for this, that the idea of a family was not what he desired. He provided her with no evidence to suggest that he had transformed. "I'm not going anywhere," he murmured softly. Kate let out a breath, caught in a moment of uncertainty, torn between wanting to trust him and her lingering doubts. After a brief pause, he gathered his thoughts and spoke once more. "I desire to be more than just a weekend presence in her life. I desire to take on the role of her father." Kate blinked, her fingers gripping the edge of the counter with increasing intensity. "That's not a decision you can simply make, Nicholas." He acknowledged it, indeed. "However, I desire to achieve it through my own efforts." Kate hesitated before responding. She took her time, finally settling into the seat opposite him. "That will require some time." He gave a slight nod. "Time is on my side." Kate observed him intently for a prolonged moment, then she gave a subtle nod. "Understood." Nicholas breathed out, sensing a calmness wash over him. It lacked any grand proclamation. The conclusion lacked perfection. Yet, it marked the dawn of something genuine. The conclusion of this narrative conveys a profound message regarding personal development, the opportunity for redemption, and the significance of confronting the repercussions of previous choices. Nicholas, a man who previously scoffed at the notion of fatherhood and turned away from the idea of family, ultimately demonstrates that transformation is achievable. The transformation from apathy to genuine involvement in Amelia's life is profoundly moving and ultimately restorative. Kate's careful yet receptive attitude towards allowing Nicholas into Amelia's life illustrates the intricate nature of restoring trust. She possesses a keen awareness, balancing her protective instincts with an openness to offer him an opportunity, mirroring his own journey toward embracing the fatherhood he once deemed impossible. The manner in which Nicholas demonstrates his dedication, not through extravagant displays but through steady, subtle efforts, lends the conclusion a sense of authenticity and fulfillment. This narrative explores the journey of discovering how to focus on what is genuinely important. The conclusion goes beyond Nicholas discovering a daughter or restoring his connection with Kate. It's about understanding that connections, kinship, and affection demand patience, steadiness, and openness. Nicholas doesn't merely enter their lives, he meticulously carves out his role within their world, demonstrating that true growth transcends mere words and is rooted in consistent presence and effort. It serves as an encouraging reminder that regardless of the time that has elapsed or the errors that have occurred, there is always an opportunity for transformation, development, and the chance to rectify past wrongs.